Hey there, dear friends. Welcome back to Crypto's News. It's me, Omar Bam, aka Crypto, here to fill you in on what's happening in crypto today. And as usual, quite a bit. I'm a bit exhausted after a full day of music lessons, but I want to make sure, as always, that you guys stay on top of things and are aware of what are the most trending topics in crypto today. So a huge thank you to my YouTube sponsors, to my Patreon supporters, and those of you guys who just show up, and those of you guys who had congratulated our engagement for L and I thank you guys so very much. Even if I didn't have a moment to get back to you, I did read all your comments, and I want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart for that. But yeah, we got plenty to get into today. What's going on the regulatory front, what's going on with stablecoins, what's going on with Gamestop, what's going on with plenty more. So thank you for tuning in, and we're just going to dive into things. Take a look at the prices, of course, as we start out. Hey, Mr. Orange, thank you for showing up and sharing some love, man. So we have Bitcoin pretty much flat on the day, down 0%, up 0%, however you want to look at it. I guess like glass, cup half empty, or half full, right, kind of thing. I'm definitely a full guy. We're not falling here. We're at $87,632.60 up on the week. So there we're seeing some green, 5.7% up on the week. Ethereum has managed to hold over $2,000, which is really nice. It is, however, down 0.9% on the day at $2,072.72. And it is up 7.2. That's a lot of 7.2s. It is up 7.2% over the last 7 days. Are these like angel numbers when you see the same number repeated over and over? Do you guys believe in that stuff? I don't know. It would be a good luck, right? It's an angel number. Anyway, good luck. Good luck, Ethereum. I'll be here watching. And yeah, I'm nothing too crazy. I guess the biggest gainer here in the top 10 is Doge, continuing to rally, up 14.1% over the last week at almost 20 cents, 19.1925 cents. Overall market caps for crypto down 1.5% at $2.975 trillion. Come on, let's break 3 trillion. Let's break 100,000 for Bitcoin. Let's break the old all-time high for Ethereum. We haven't even touched it yet. What is happening here? But there's plenty of room for optimism, at least when it comes to Bitcoin and Ethereum, and certainly other projects because of some of the news that we're going to be discussing in a minute. But before we get into that, let's take a look at the crypto fear and greed index. So I myself have been wondering, okay, so it looks like we're not going to go all the way to $70,000 Bitcoin and drop below it. At least it looks that way right now. But you would have thought that could be the case. And most people certainly did, because if you look at this chart, we dipped into the extreme fear territory, which is absolutely insane. So looking at this market cap index, or this fear and greed index on CoinMarketCap that goes back to around summer 2023, this recent dip caused the most extreme fear that we have seen in almost 2 years, which is what is striking to me with this is that if you look at this chart, you'll see in the gray, the lighter line up there, that is the Bitcoin price. And there was a good period of time here in 2024 where the fear and greed index correlated really closely to what was happening with the Bitcoin price. But the Bitcoin price actually did not crash that much recently. So it really just became so far removed. You saw this huge split where it was extreme fear, but we weren't seeing that extremely reflected in the prices. So we're seeing this kind of volatility on the emotional side, which is, I think, what really is shooting so many retail folks in the foot. I don't know what groups they're hanging out with, what chats, what discussions, what Discords, what Telegrams they are currently on. By the way, Discord is getting sold, I believe, to a company that is known for trying to monetize everything. So Discord could be changing very soon, if that's one of your favorite places to look for discussions. Anyway, I know I'm here. I'm still for it. I didn't feel that extreme fear. Maybe it's just time in the market that has driven that away. But for myself, I wasn't feeling like we were really in some sort of bear market. And the reason for that, besides looking at this fear, which you might have led you to go down that route, the reason for that has to do with how much attention there still is on crypto. Really, when we're in the throes of a bear market, all you see is that fear that eventually resolves into a kind of never-ending doldrum of just... it just seems to never end. And the news is boring, is my point. Nobody cares about the news. And the news that does come out doesn't seem very relevant. what little that there is during a bear market. And I have not seen that this cycle. I see only more and more attention still continuing to grow, especially with the new administration and what they're doing here. So I think we're just setting up really for greater and greater runs pending what the Fed will do. But this is a time to buy, right? You don't want to be buying once everybody has already bought in. Generally, you want to be dollar cost averaging now when we are at these interest rates before they get lowered, while we're just beginning quantitative tightening restrictions to eventually move to quantitative easing and lowering interest rates and all that. You want to be here for that part of the party. I promise you guys. You want to have a good sum, right, in your portfolio. I don't know how we're still alive, some of us out here. Anyway, so let's get into some of the news. Welcome to those of you guys. Hey, Ozzy, nice to have you, man. Thank you very much. Good luck. I'm not sure what you mean. I guess you mean for the engagement. Thank you so much. I'm so used to like the theater world where people say break a leg, but I don't think that's normal vernacular for folks outside of theater and actors. But anyway, World Liberty Financial plans to launch USD1, the institutional ready stablecoin. So you probably remember World Liberty Financial. They're the Trump-backed, supported, inspired, they call it, inspired by President Donald J. Trump, company that has a DeFi aspect to it, basically engaging with decentralized finance, buying coins. You remember like wrapped Bitcoin, buying Chainlink, buying Aave, buying Ethereum, all sorts of stuff. I believe ETH and plenty of other tokens. So they have launched or they have announced that they are launching this new stable coin, redeemable 1-for-1 with US dollars. And it's going to be initially launched on the Ethereum blockchain. Surprised? I guess some people are. They were really expecting that it was going to be Solana. But no, it's going to be the Ethereum blockchain and the Binance Smart Chain BSC blockchain, which has caused, of course, some controversy about how CZ might have an in here with President Trump and he's getting better favor from him. But really, we're seeing that this administration has proved great for so many different companies, like even Immutable. So like Immutable that creates these gaming blockchain applications. They have their own token as well. They had received a well notice from the SEC back in 2021 and were basically threatened with enforcement from the SEC, and that has now been dropped according to Immutable, right? So there's another company that was not at any, as far as I know, maybe they were at any of these White House crypto parties. They were last year, the SEC issued Immutable a Wells notice. Oh, I guess it was last year, so 2024. That inquiry is now officially closed with zero findings of wrongdoing, and the SEC is taking no action. This is a huge win, not just for Web3 gaming precedent, but everyone who believes in digital ownership rights. Yeah, they were kind of innovators, I guess you could call it, and even the NFT space. But if you can imagine an NFT, instead of just being some dumb meme or some dumb picture that anyone can create and try to get some sort of influencer, you guys should totally see my messages. I should show you guys my messages, message requests. Meme coin project. Hello, boss. Meme coin project. Meme coin project. Meme coin. It's like everyone is trying to get you to shill their meme coin project. And of course, I don't respond to any of them, but plenty do. My point being that being able to tokenize instead assets that are for use in different kinds of digital experiences or games is more utilitarian than a lot of what we have seen and goes beyond just investment, right? Or who gets out last, and could really be a great collection tool. So I'm happy for Immutable to hear on that news. But anyway, yeah, I know we took a little bit of a detour there. But WLFI is creating this new stable coin. It's going to be, again, on the Ethereum blockchain, Binance Smart Chain blockchain, and it's got its own way of valuing to a dollar. They're going to have a auditing by regular third-party accounting firm, fully backed by reserve portfolio. Yeah, I mean, you know, okay. And they're going to be custodied by BitGo, who we all trust, the world's largest independent qualified custodian and leader in digital asset security, blah, 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 as a partnership here. But the question really is here about why another stable coin. I think that is like the big thing today that people are discussing. Why do we need another one? We have so many different alternatives. So what is the major move here? Right? Maybe it's to launch other DeFi protocols that are powered by this stable coin, or maybe because they're backed by Trump, they can now engage or have other companies and financial institutions engage with this stable coin and ultimately benefit them, shareholders perhaps. I don't know. There is definitely something to be said about actually tweaking these different algorithms, trying to figure out how that they peg themselves to a dollar. How are they doing this? The easiest way that most of them do it is they just deposit dollars at a bank or whatever, or a custodian, and then they issue the stable coin that should be ideally be redeemable, and you have some sort of auditor on the side that is doing these attestations to make sure that the funds are still there and so on. But there was this whole time around MakerDAO and DAI when it was about, what about when the dollar doesn't exist? What about when the dollar crashes? How could these things be considered stable when they're pegged to something that is worthless? And that's really where I lay with this. This is to me not the most exciting news, but I did wish to share it because it is a major topic that's coming out right now. And yeah, speaking of World Liberty Financial, like what exactly control does President Donald Trump have in this DeFi project? I'm not entirely sure, but I found this section here on cryptonomist.ch. According to what is reported on the official website, President Donald Trump and some members of his family control 60% of World Liberty Financial shares. So it's not just like they're friends or he just gave them a thumbs up to go to Zach and the CEO of that company to go and make money with his blessings. No, they're probably benefiting off of this in certain ways. They've conducted 2 public sales in the past, raised a total of $550 million, and so on and so on. But yeah, that's one of the latest stable coins I wanted to discuss. And it might be related to this. So he signed an executive order that is going to be modernizing how the Treasury issues payments. I'll let you hear it yourself. It's just a 1-minute clip here, and it describes what this executive policy is set to do.
I have an executive order for your attention relating actually to government payments. Historically, checks issued by the Treasury are, I believe, 14 times more likely to become the subject of fraud than electronic transfer payments. This is an executive order that's going to push the Treasury Department to modernize its payment system to ensure that where possible they're using electronic methods of payment as opposed to paper checks in order to reduce waste, fraud, and abuse in the government, which is obviously an endeavor that we've been pursuing in numerous aspects of government under your leadership.
It's basically modernization of equipment and methods, and it's something that really I think he's going to be a great Secretary of the Treasury wanted, Scott. And so we're doing this, and we have other modernization programs going on. We could let somebody else, whoever's next, whoever that may be, do it, but it's something that should have been done 25, 30 years ago.
Yeah, I totally agree. Makes complete sense. You know what? This would be a great way to pump like NVIDIA stock, right? Beyond just AI hype. We should modernize all the Windows 95 computers that all the government offices use. I think that alone would be a huge speed increase. Anyway, no, I think this is actually great. This is definitely something that I think is necessary. I think most people in crypto are saying, well, this could incorporate some sort of cryptocurrency rails, a stablecoin rail. Maybe it is related to what World Liberty is doing with this USD1 coin, and it certainly could be the case. Maybe that is how they'll modernize things beyond just fraudulent checks, and it's a verifiability on a blockchain such as Ethereum. I think that would be great. We would want this transparency as citizens, and I think that's something that should be demanded by citizens everywhere around the world. So I can't knock this one at all. Okay, and we also have another stable coin. Custodia Bank and Vantage Bank issued America's first bank-issued stable coin on a permissionless blockchain. So the first? Wow, that's actually really amazing. Let's check this out. March 25th today, Custodian Bank, working with Vantage Bank, yesterday completed America's first ever tokenization of a bank's US dollar demand deposits on a permissionless blockchain by issuing, transferring, and redeeming AVIT stablecoins, trademark, for a bank customer. A new US dollar payment rail has now been activated inside the US banking system at a time when the global community is increasingly demanding US dollar stablecoins for transactional use, which will tie into the next bit of news we're going to look at. All parties to the series of test transactions observed several efficiencies, including low transaction costs, fast transaction settlement, programmability, and auditability within a safe, compliant, and regulated banking environment. They were still using checks at the Treasury. Oh, jeez. The banks collaborated on the mint, transfer, and redemption of AVIT tokens for a bank customer on the Ethereum mainnet using the ERC20 standard. Parties transacted in 8 stages, with Vantage Bank managing the stablecoin fiat reserves. So that's really the bank's role in this, and providing the Fed wire and ACH services. Custodia Bank managed blockchain issuance, redemption services, custody services, blockchain transaction monitoring, so all the blockchain stuff, and reconciliation using its AVIT management system. The 8 stages included transfers by the bank customer of its AVIT tokens into self-custody, transacting with its AVIT tokens business to business outside the banking system, and transferring its AVIT tokens back to Custodia Bank for redemption into US dollar demand deposits. It's almost like the US dollar is becoming what gold used to be when there were like you deposit your gold with the blacksmith, and the blacksmith would give you a receipt that would be an IOU to redeem those receipts for that gold in the future, and then spoof. Currency. We have currency. Now instead, we are locking up dollars to create the future of money, which is on permissionless. I think that's important. Permissionless blockchains, public blockchains, and not just like a random one that they created. I think this really was a great move to see. This is headed up by Caitlin Long. We've certainly talked about her in the past, CEO of Custodia Bank, and also by Jeff Sinnott, president and CEO of Vantage Bank. So really interesting news on that front. Also in other news, Circle, creators of the USDC stablecoin, have announced that they are the first stablecoin that's been vetted and allowed to operate by the financial services regulators in Japan. Breaking news, Circle becomes the first and only stablecoin to be approved for use in Japanese markets, with Circle launching new operations, a strategic JV with SBI Holdings, and imminent launch of USBC by SBI VC Trade with other major exchanges to follow. Okay, well, let's look at the actual press release here. It's going to be, I think, opening up more opportunities here for the stablecoin markets in Japan. It's interesting that Japan isn't first using some sort of yen native version of this. Maybe Circle has promised that they'll create some sort of offering like that. This is something that definitely strengthens the dollar. It seems clear that Japan is not trying to challenge the US dollar if this is the case. So it's more macroeconomic of a move, I would say. But it could point of what could be coming here with Japanese markets, opening more and more doors for crypto opportunities there and other players there. So at least they're not just being restrictive, which I like to see from these kinds of nations. If you're not very familiar with how USDC works, it's a fully reserved digital dollar backed 100% by highly liquid cash and cash equivalent assets, and is redeemable one for one with US dollars. The USDC reserves are again held at regulated financial institutions with published third-party monthly attestations, audits, providing a high level of transparency for businesses and users. This is probably my most trusted stablecoin, I will admit, at this time. It is accepted more and more places. It has headed up by people with a lot of experience in finance. I have zero belief that they're going to just run off and rug pull or it will crash. They have dollars. They do these audits very frequently, monthly. It's good to see them do well, I would say. Which is a far cry from when I first talked about them. I'm super scrupulous when I see anything brand new. It takes, even with Ethereum and even with Bitcoin, it takes a while for it to win my heart. But yeah, USDC's been doing a good job. Good job, Jeremy. Stablecoin supply now on Ethereum with all the stablecoin news coming out. I had to point this out. Stablecoin supply on Ethereum reached a new all-time high of $132.4 billion. Okay, how much money out there is there in existence? And I'm probably talking about assets and canceling out the liabilities, just like the total sum of money. That's the number that I want to see this. Now that we wouldn't have any room for Bitcoin and like native Ethereum, we'd have to pay gas fees. So maybe not that number, but we want to see this number continue to grow. And that's exactly what we're seeing during a bear market that some people believe. Anyway, this one hurt a little bit. It hit me quite deeply when I saw this meme, and then I laughed it off. But it was like one of those painful laughs, like, yeah, it does feel this way sometimes. That's why I just hold the big boys for the most part now. Anyway, Michael Saylor, this tweet, GameStop is adding Bitcoin to their treasury. They are adopting the winning strategy. The golden bull run is happening. Okay, well, let's look at the shortest press release in the world here by GameStop, who is saying that they have announced that its board has unanimously approved an update to its investment policy to add Bitcoin as a treasury reserve asset. Yeah, I mean, pivoting over to the strategy of strategy makes a little bit of sense when this seems to be a dying company. They got rid of Game Informer, although I heard Game Informer is coming back. But yeah, you could go there and get a magazine subscription. That was the last thing that I ever did. Dirt cheap when you signed up for like their benefits GameStop stuff. I would go to the mall, pop into GameStop, get the subscription for a whole year for like $20, say peace, not show up at GameStop again, which is a far cry from like back in the day when it was the place to be. Stand there, craning neck to play these different games, see what's hot. But now with the release of digital games and everything else, there's just less of a reason to go buy overpriced pre-owned games and merchandise there. So some sort of move to rebalance their cash holdings seems to make sense here, considering the growth we've seen from companies like Strategy. So check out this comment by Dope Boy Rico that I found on the Bitcoin market subreddit. GME GameStop stock is currently sitting on a huge $4.775 billion cash position. GME's current market cap is $11.35 billion. That's insane. Almost 50%, I'm not sure the exact number there, of their cash position is like against their market cap. Their market cap, 50% of that almost is their cash position, which is basically money that is getting perpetually lost due to inflation. And this is not conspiratorial. This is literally what the Fed is trying to do. They are trying to target positive inflation. So absolutely, just keeping cash seems ridiculous. But when you're fear averse, you're scared. That's what you see investors doing. I mean, Warren Buffett, before some of these recent dips, had apparently pulled out quite a bit. So if you followed him, you might have conserved some capital there. So it makes sense sometimes to be sitting in cash, but maybe not for GameStop, especially if they're going to get into Bitcoin, which has performed admirably. When MSTR started their BTC acquisition strategy on August 11, 2020, their market cap was at $3.6 billion, pennies. Today, MSTR or Strategy has a market cap of $89.03 billion. So from $3.6 billion to $89.03 billion after they began their Bitcoin acquisition strategy. MSTR's first Bitcoin purchase was in the amount of $250 million. Depending on how seriously GME decides to go with the MSTR route, this has potential to have enormous implications on BTC price long term, and that's not factoring in other multi-billion dollar companies deciding to do the same. You saw MSTR do it, perform incredibly. You see GME, you wait, see what happens. Wow. Okay, forget it. Let's not even bother selling merch anymore. We're just going to put BTC ATMs inside of GameStop, and then their market cap balloons and explodes, right? You're going to have so many other companies that are trying to do the same. So we have this follow the leader thing that is going on with corporations and these strategies of reserve assets and allocating funds into that, either for investment or for cash positions and so on. And you also see the same kind of chasing happening with these states again. So we have North Carolina, the latest, yesterday introducing a bill to invest 5% of state funds into Bitcoin. So bullish for Bitcoin. I think that makes sense. 5% is an easier sell than saying we have the ability to invest up to 10% of taxpayer money and gamble. It's what it looks like to them, to the voters, to the constituents and the politicians alike, that 10% is a lot. So if you just frame it like 5%, maybe 2%, 3%, they can dip their toes and ultimately maybe onboard more going forward here. I don't think there's deadlines here. Like you can only put 5% for all time. No more bills will ever exist. So I'd like to see this conservative announcement here, and this does seem like something that has a bigger chance of passing some of those that have failed recently, some of those states that we discussed before the cryptos news break. So anyway, we covered this a little bit. Yeah, I guess that's pretty much the main crypto stuff that is going around the interwebs. There are all other kinds of topics as usual, but those were the headlines, and I want to make sure you guys are on top of it. Thank you guys for showing up. I just want to mention this thing. If you guys have shared your DNA with 23andMe, I don't know if you've been following the news. I shared it with my brother because he had gotten DNA sampling from this company, and he was able to trace back in his blood, like what percent was African, what percent was European, and then all sorts of other civilizations, I guess you could call them, that he wasn't even aware of that he had inside of his genes. So I mean, I was interested in doing it, but imagine selling your data, like your genetic data. Luckily, he did it under a bogus name, like and bogus information. But because of metadata and tracking and IPs, even that might not be enough for them to not know exactly whose DNA it was. But if you were someone who did share your DNA information with 23andMe, be aware that they filed for bankruptcy, and they are going to be probably selling that data to the highest bidder. We don't know how that has already leaked. We don't know that the highest bidder could actually be great. Maybe they decide to delete it and start fresh. I doubt it. Who are we kidding here? Anyway, be careful, guys. You still have time to go on there and delete your data. Oh man, how tempting it is though to like sign up for that testing and really know. I barely knew my father, guys. Barely, man. I just want to know, Anyways, I understand the curiosity, but be careful, guys. If you do have that data, get on there and delete it stat while you're able. And our final quote of the day here. Today or any day, that phone may ring and bring good news, by Ethel Waters. So, there's always people going through rough times. I've certainly had my own that I've shared here on the show through the many years. And thank you guys for being such a big part of my life for my journey and sharing it with me and giving me a voice and really lending your ear to allow us to share these moments together and grow together and so on. But yeah, so for those of you who might not be having the best time, we're here with you, the Cryptos News community. And yeah, maybe our deltas or whatever blockchain or crypto asset portfolio trackers, maybe those will one day ring a nice notification that you're up a nice 20, 30, 100, 10,000x%. Take care, guys. Much love and stay cryptic. Peace.